The shark, babe, has such teeth, dear, and it shows them pearly white. Just a jackknife has old Maggie Heath, babe, and it keeps it out of sight.
Let's talk about politics. The left-wing community on YouTube has found new consumers for its content. People that will consume the resources necessary to generate a good amount of currency for the user. In a way, this is a digital form of capitalism made through the rhetoric of revolutionary socialism. This community also uses vulgar rhetoric to bring around a certain reactionary or backwards audience. An audience that has little to no interest in changing the world. An audience that is fascinated by aesthetics or how pretty things look like. This collection of individuals call themselves dirtbags or dirtbag leftists. The dirtbag leftists, as I said before, is the right wing of BreadTube. They have little to no interest in changing the world, but they use the rhetoric of change and progress to further their own self-interest or their opportunist strategies. These opportunists, or counter-revolutionaries disguised as revolutionaries, use the accumulation of resources, produce it through the libido love of the content lover or the audience as a way of gaining trust and a way of gaining money. That is, if you have some neckbeard on the internet and this neckbeard asks for money, they will give that money as long as there is an illusion of ideological connections between these two individuals, or millions of people connected to this one person, or in the case of most, only a few thousand. Now let's look at an individual that has inspired this community. A guy named Destiny was basically the father for the dirtbag left. He was a bourgeoisie liberal that I sometimes watch, and from what I can gather, he laid the seeds for such people. And with this inspiration that the dirtbag got from him, we can see the similarities between these individuals.
Anybody else?
Mrs. Obama, get down!
We are going to deconstruct the narratives of several individuals. Each response will be ordered from least to greatest, as in least important to most important.
How's it going, everyone? So, you remember last year when we had the Make America Straight Again thing with the NIFB? Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but today's gonna be another one of those.
The aesthetics of this channel are very weird.
Alright, now that the intro's out of the way, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. If you hit the bell notification icon afterwards, then you're guaranteed to see videos as soon as they come out. Maybe, possibly. Depends on if YouTube actually allows that. They're finicky and I don't understand their rules. And that said, what do we have to talk about today? I'm going to be skipping the fan art section so we can jump right into the actual topic, which is one I stumbled upon while doing a live stream. Much like how the Make America Straight Again conference was hosted by the NIFB in Orlando, Florida, we now seem to have a new conference that's called the God's Voice Conference. They claim to be able to bring biblical clarity to recent confusion surrounding the issues of re-voiced sexuality and LGBTQ plus Christians. They claim that LGBTQ plus individuals have been engaging in tyranny in the church and are continually queering the Church of Jesus Christ. Their words, not mine. They're going to be hosting this thing in April in Oklahoma City. And while I'm not getting the same violent vibes that I got from the Make America Straight Again conference, I am still getting some pretty negative ones from this place.
I agree that fundamentalist Christianity is a bad thing. I must say that social liberal ideas are as primitive as the reactionary segments of American society. Socially liberal ideas are restrictive on the potential of the human mind. It is dogmatic and it sees everything in such a limited objective view.
Let's start off with their About section to see what they're actually all about, and then we'll move on to the speakers themselves. So, as per the About section, why God's Voice? God's Voice Conference was first launched in February 2019 as a biblical response to the queering of the Church of Jesus Christ and to the encroachment of the false narrative of LGBTQ plus Christianity into conservative Christianity through the Revoice Conference. Okay, so what's the Revoice Conference? Looking at their mission statement, they want to support and encourage gay, lesbian, bisexual, and other same-sex attracted Christians, as well as those who love them, so that all in the church might be empowered to live in the gospel unity while observing the historic Christian doctrine of marriage and sexuality. So, hold on. Revoice wants to make sure that there are more Christians, and as per Christian narrative, that means people who will be saved and not go to hell, whereas the God's Voice Conference is made in direct opposition of that, so that they can argue that these people should be burning in hell because they're gay.
Christianity is a very advanced religion, simply because it has several interpretations, several narratives around it, sub-narratives if we're going to be more exact. So at this point in its history, it wouldn't really matter on these social issues because it has become so subjective. And I guess you're right, they do want to reform the religion to gain the attraction of people. However, I see this as sinister, especially since historically the religion had a different theological understanding. Christianity in its earlier Nicene, or I guess a few hundred years after the death of Jesus, was a completely different faith, with completely different formations of the faith. What I don't get from you is trying to create this monopolized version of it, this one single narrative to replace it. It doesn't really make sense. Another problem with your meta-narrative is that if Christianity was to completely evolve into a socially liberal faith, which I doubt, it wouldn't really make it better in any form whatsoever. When a religion becomes socially liberal, that does not improve anything. It does not improve theology, it does not improve human social conditions, it does not improve any aspect of society. What we can call the good form of Christianity was something that was suppressed for hundreds of years, that has come in various forms throughout history. A Christianity that was very focused on individual and community at the same time. A version of the faith that had a collective sense of meaning towards improving one's own condition and helping the poor and all those other aspects of society. This form of Christianity you're critiquing is rather a deviation of past deviations. And you're also supporting a deviation of the same faith. But this deviation of a deviation is the worst of all deviations. The type of Christianity you're sympathetic to is as bad as the televangelist conservative version of Christianity. That is because it also supports consumerism, commodification, and lies that try to improve the consolidation of power for the upper class of society. This form of Christianity is hedonism intensified, justified through vague social equality and other aspects of what we perceive as good and moral. A socially liberal religion does not really mean it is good. For example, the Greeks allow basically a whole range of demographics in its society. Even pedophiles were accepted in that religion. With Greek society, you had so much inclusiveness for certain oppressive forces that you had a new type of oppression justified through different ways. Oppression can come in all forms. Oppression to you is when someone says mean words or something like that. Rather, the structure depends on who is on top, who is on bottom, and it can be fluid in how that is expressed.
And that they have no place in the church. Okay, well, let's flip back to the About section of God's Voice and see what else they have to say. But they're already not on a good foot. However, as the LGBTQ+ activist movement has grown extreme and gained political power, its voice and actions are impacting every level of society with devastating consequences, especially for Christians. Ah yes, the political power of only recently being able to get married, and helping to make sure that one guy can't just segregate a cake store. Right. Tons of political power there. I can truly see why these people are the enemy and must be taken down by God's voice.
The first thing I have to say is that marriage as an institution within society has already lost its meaning. It stands for nothing but a social construct that appeals to the emotions of millions of people, which means that it is only symbolism and does not improve the lives of people at all. In many societies that have not suffered as much as the West in terms of the flow of capital, marriage still has a role in how human societal functions work. Marriage helps create stabilized families in which children can be raised in a bubble of responsibility. This bubble of responsibility is supposed to install children with a sense of meaning and a sense of value within that society. Our bourgeoisie managerial society has stripped away its purpose. The family no longer serves as a independent and free organization. It does not do education. The government does education. It does not really raise children in the most proper way, but society does that. Advertisement installs ideas into children. So does their friends, and so does other habits in that society. The marriage that you say was legalized did not fix any of the problems. It just extends it to other people.
And what about devastating consequences? Well, they are now able to get married, and they are treated more equally in businesses. Though they certainly don't have enough political power, especially trans people. I mean, hell, you can still use trans panic as a defense in court in 44 states. For those who don't know, trans panic is the defense where you enact violence on a trans person because when you two went to have relations with one another, you found out they were trans there and then, and it works a little bit like an insanity plea. The fact that this is still a valid defense in many states is absolutely disgusting.
I agree.
And you would think that LGBTQ plus people would have enough power to maybe do something about that, at least if you listen to the God's Voice narrative. Unless this is less about them having a lot of power and more about trying to stop them from gaining more than just a foothold. That one seems to be more likely. Continuing on, that's why God's Voice 2020 will present a biblical response to LGBTQ plus tyranny. From therapy bans to Amazon censorship, from drag queen story hours to children seeking surgical gender transitions, from making LGBTQ plus behaviors equal to race and gender through the so-called Equality Act to lawsuits against evangelical believers, from radical activism at Christian colleges to incremental activism through devices like Revoice. The LGBTQ plus activist movement is revealing itself as a tyrannical force that threatens morality, biology, and our God-given rights to religious freedom and free speech. Alrighty, well, let's go ahead and do this one at a time. First of all, let's talk about the therapy bans. They're referring to conversion therapy. You know, that extremely harmful medical practice that aims to try to lie to people and tell them their sexuality is something that they know it's not. Something that honestly should be banned, considering that it's nothing but an abusive tactic as a desperate attempt to control somebody else's sexuality. But apparently, that's a traditional American value to the God's Voice Conference. That has to be upheld.
I agree with you on this issue. So far, in terms of conversion therapy.
As for Amazon censorship, what they seem to be referring to is the myriad of books that have been taken off of the Amazon store shelves who were authored by people who said they were once lesbian or gay and are trying to help other lesbian and gay people understand that they don't have to walk that path of sin. Now, while I'm all for freedom of expression, I can understand why Amazon would want to take these books off of their shelves. They're literally written by a series of grifters who are trying to make a buck off of the suffering of others and the abuse of their peers. Like, here, let me paint a scenario. You wrestle with the fact that you may or may not be gay for years, and then you finally come to realize that, yeah, you're not exactly straight. You come out of the closet to your parents, and the first thing you see on the Prime Delivery doorstep 2 days later are these books, telling you how you can get better, and it's okay to feel gay, but you don't have to be gay. What kind of mental state do you find yourself in now? Well, you're certainly now officially being abused. So, yeah, no, screw those books. I have no problem with Amazon taking them off shelves. You're not entitled to Amazon store shelves.
I find interesting that a so-called socialist would support censorship when a corporation does it. What we see here is a major contradiction, a very dialectical contradiction. We have a pseudo-socialist supporting a institutional organization, part of the capitalist apparatus. And when I think about this, I realize how much of these dirtbag leftists are hypocrites. Amazon and various other corporations only care about homosexuals because they can gain money from it. It is a economic demographic that they can exploit, a demographic they can manipulate, and the same can apply to various other identities that are part of our PC culture, political correctness, and identity politics is the structure that companies use to manipulate groups. It should also be said that people should have the right to freedom of speech as long as there isn't any true harm, that is physical harm and actual mental harm. It must as well be said that your example is only one situation out of many. You do not actually know how every individual thinks. You are not the actual representation of all people of that demographic.
Drag Queen Story Hour, which is at worst a harmless neutral, and at best a method of letting kids know from an early age that sometimes people are going to be different than them, and that's okay.
This is the worst explanation for why you would support something. If you see something as morally good, you do not just say that it's okay. You must explain why it's good. Now, for such a issue like this, it shouldn't be the school's main concern when talking about this. In many places, many schools fail to actually teach the student how to survive in the world. And that's a very important issue compared to many things you like to talk about. In many places in America, for example in Mississippi, Alabama, and several Gulf states, literacy rates are less high compared to other places. There are more important issues to really focus on when we're talking about children.
Surgical gender transitions, something that doesn't generally happen with children at all, so that one's a lie. Making LGBTQ+ behaviors equal to race, which they are. You can't control your race, and you can't control your sexuality. You also can't control your gender identity. And we in the United States didn't have a very good track record, so we did have to establish protections in regards to race. It makes sense we would have to establish protections in regards to these other things. Also, I like their wording. They say equal to race and gender, but LGBTQ includes trans people, literally referring to gender.
Struggles between race and sexual orientation are not equal. Race is a societal description of human phenotypes that is used to describe what we call ethnicities, while orientation is the behavior that is directed towards mating and other features of an individual, as well as a group of a species. These are not comparable, simply because they're focused on completely different aspects of what makes a human, while orientation is focused on their behavior and their emotions and their mental state. Race, or ethnicity, is focused on the actual appearance of that very organism, or that very person, if we're really talking about humans. Or race can actually be better described as the phenotype for all organisms. It should be said that concepts that two characteristics hold does not mean they are the same thing, or that they are very similar. A few similarities between two things do not mean that they actually are related. And this can apply to everything, including race and gender.
Go ahead and type 1 in chat if you guys have seen ContraPoint's video on canceling. I promise you, this isn't going to be like a rant about Wokescolds or anything. That's not what this is going to be. Okay, we got a lot of ones. Hey, Vermin is here. Nice. So a lot of ones. Obviously, everyone's seen it. It's ContraPoints. Let's be real here. There is a point in her video where she says that it's almost impossible to tell the difference between an anime furry socialist on Twitter and a Nazi pretending to be one on Twitter. She said this, and a lot of people got really upset about this, and were like, ugh, ContraPoints comparing trans people to Nazis? How could you do this? How could she do... What a fucking closeted Nazi. And we're not going to talk about that. This isn't going to be a rant about Wokescolds. That's not what I want this video to be about, because it's about something I think is tangentially related, but still not... That isn't what this needs to be. Instead, this is going to be about the right attempting to infiltrate the left to make it look bad. Because as it turns out, I have evidence to support that this is actually something that is happening. Like, genuinely an issue that is taking place.
Everyone I don't like is literally Hitler, literally Hitler, literally Hitler. Everyone I don't like is literally Hitler. Let's have a look and see. You got Donald Trump, PewDiePie, and Pepe the Frog. Hand signs, free speech, follow Godwin's law. Pro-life conservatives, grammar police, white men, YouTubers, people who eat meat. Yeah, everyone I don't like is literally Hitler. Everyone except for me. Everyone I hate is a literal Nazi, literal Nazi, literal Nazi. Everyone I hate is a literal Nazi. Let's have a look and see. Jordan Peterson, Nazi. Gamergate, Nazi. Feminist, Nazi. Shakespeare plays, Nazi. Barack Obama, Nazi. George W. Bush, Nazi. Bill Clinton, Nazi. Ronald Reagan, Nazi. Yeah, everyone I hate is a literal Nazi. Everyone except for me. Everything I don't like is literally Hitler, literally Hitler, literally Hitler. Everything I don't like is literally Hitler. Let's have a look and see. Comic books, Hitler. Comedians, Hitler. Capitalism, Hitler. Socialism, Hitler. Criticism, Hitler. Men's rights activism, Hitler. Sexual dimorphism, Hitler. Facts, Hitler. Donald Duck, Hitler. Manspreading, Hitler. Babies, Hitler. 4chan, Hitler. Science, Hitler. Gun control, Hitler. Statistics, Hitler. Milk, Hitler. Yeah, everyone I don't like is literally Hitler. Everyone except for me. Everyone except for me.
So, I uploaded a video today. I apologize that my chat from the video and the chat on screen are kind of molding together. Letting your kid transition is not child abuse, and here's why. I think this might be sort of a hot take, but I feel like this video is pretty pro-trans rights. I don't know if you guys would agree, but I feel like this video is pretty pro-trans rights. So in this video, I basically talked about how any reactionary who claims that it is child abuse to put your kid on hormone blockers or to allow them to transition, taking hormones or anything, or socially transition, anything like that, it is not child abuse. And there's data and there's science to support this claim. It is not child abuse. It is completely okay. And yes, I like my own videos, and you should be too. And that's all well and good. People obviously pretty supportive of it, obviously, you know. But I got a comment on this video that really stood out to me by someone named Mary Inda. I'm going to go ahead and make chat disappear for a moment so that we can see these comments, because I really want to show them, okay? Let's take a look at this. This guy is a CIA shill. He is no friend of the trans community. He gaslights people and accuses them of saying things they did not say. Okay, so my first reaction to this was like, alright, maybe they're trolling, maybe it's like maybe they're kind of a Wokescold type, I don't know. But then I scrolled down and I saw the argument that unfolded below. Obviously, there is no argument to support me being a CIA shill, but still, you know. This person responds, please tell me this is a meme. They say, no, it's not. Okay, you're just a fuckwit. Got it. Sure, if you think this, then you must be right. Look, I'm just warning you. Your statement denies the existence of COINTELPRO. So then they start claiming that I'm like a CIA shill, like a plant trying to subvert leftism. They say, this video is an agenda-pushing video. The trans toddler thing is used to discredit the trans community. True, but the only agenda I'm pushing in this video is if your kid has dysphoria or your kid believes they're trans, they should be allowed to be put on hormone blockers and be allowed to transition. The data backs this up. Transphobes are bad. That was my video. This white cis bro dude, okay, should be obvious, but whatever. I can name two people he has gaslighted. Neo-Jacobin, or Neo-Jacobin? No idea who this is. And Phoenix Rising 87. Phoenix Rising 87 made an extremely dishonest video on me that I absolutely tore apart on stream. and I believe they like walked it back or something, or they like privated their video after I covered it. I'm not sure. I might be thinking of someone else, but yeah, they made a really bad video. I covered it.
This guy talks a lot, but he has little to actually say. When we look at his arguments, from what I see in terms of this video so far, is that he sees everything as being objective truth. That is, this is truth, this is scientific. The problem with objectivist ideas is that it is based on assumptions like everything else. Since they are assumptions, are they really true at all? What is even truth? These concepts are, I think, epistemological, or whatever you call it. It is a very important issue in philosophy to think about. And I do not think that you, Xanderhal, or formerly known as Pig Puncher, really knows how to really examine ideology in a materialist way, not in an idealist, immaterial formation of what we see as analysis.
I reached out and said, want to debate about it on stream? Join my Discord and we can chat about it live tonight at around 8 p.m. EST. And they responded, I don't trust you. I came to warn others here, nothing else. Go on, gaslight an anarchist that does real work. I don't have the time. If you were so great, how come you didn't do anything for the homeless trans teens here in Arizona? Because you are fake. Pig Puncher was a better name, too. The police are part of the state class power structure. The problem is class division, Mr. Cis Gatekeeper. There will be no debate. You make money off leftism, yet you don't fight for the poor. Socialism is held back by BreadTube. No war but class war. Even cis and trans as concepts are but flags and borders. But I guess this is beyond you. You did not even stand up for ContraPoints when she expressed gender questioning, I assume, behavior, which is highly common among the gender fluid. This word police shit is COINTELPRO. This cancel culture is COINTELPRO. You know nothing. You are just edgy gaming middle-class white boy SJW bullshit. You could never handle anarchists like my family. Now, what the fuck is COINTELPRO? COINTELPRO is basically an FBI psyop, essentially, that was used to make the Black Panther Party and a lot of like leftist movements in America look bad, and they would like they would pretend to be part of those movements and then act out in performative acts of like embarrassing acts or violent acts and whatnot to make those movements look bad. So me from a few months ago may not have known better. I might have accused this person of being like a genuine person on the left who's maybe a bit like misled and they're like a Wokescold or something. I don't believe that. I don't believe that this is like this person is on the left. I am very sure that this is a Nazi pretending to be a leftist that is concern trolling right now. No leftist who is aware of COINTELPRO and of like any of these issues would make these arguments or would talk about any of this.
Your argument is full of several fallacies. For example, the fallacy of not true Scotsman's fallacy. That's an example of a fallacy that you're doing right now. Since you do not like someone, you accuse them of being something without proof. You say they're not true leftists, not true socialists, not true supporters of the working class. And you go on to accuse them of something without proof. You are angry at people for telling you that you are part of the CIA or some other secret organization. Yet, you accuse people of being part of a secret fascist cabal used to do entrism into the leftist movement. You are a hypocrite, and you do all this in the effort of consolidating power so that your supporters can continue their consumerist illusions of giving you money for your petite bourgeoisie life. I completely agree with Inda. I think Mary Inda knows what they are talking about. What Xanderhal doesn't understand is that you can still support a group while secretly hating them.
This has to be concern trolling. I refuse to believe that any leftist is actually, like, doing this. Now, why do I believe that? Why do I believe that there is any basis to go off of that this person is, Also, yeah, I'm just as poor. I'm more poor than the average fuck. I just ate, I know I use this as an example a lot, but I can't afford hot dog buns, okay? When I make a hot dog or I make a bagel, I just toast slices of white bread and cover it in cream cheese or put a hot dog on it with ketchup, and that's what I eat. I don't make a shit ton of money, okay? But that's irrelevant to this discussion. Instead, I want to go over an example of, an incontrovertible example of a Nazi pretending to be a leftist and concern trolling. They're doing this. Don't ask why I'm using the Tor browser to show Twitter right now. It has something to do with my unfortunate run-ins on Twitter. But let's go over this. So this is from back in Valentine's Day, back in February 14th. Gudian tweeted, "I just realized I have my dead name and photos on my passport and ID. I'm going to get killed when I travel to San Diego this year, aren't I?" You know, a good tweet, talking about an issue that trans people oftentimes face. Unfortunate, but it's a reality of this world. Blooper, thank you for the $10, says, "Buy some hot dog buns, you fucking heathen." Thank you for the $10. I really appreciate it, Blooper. It's very kind of you, and I love you for the donation. Thank you. Well, I love you anyway, but still. So Captain Cornflakes responds, "What do you just randomly out of nowhere? What do you think of Xanderhal saying Pig Puncher is a dead name?" For a little context, basically, I've joked that when people call me Pig Puncher, they're dead naming me. It's not serious. It doesn't actually affect me in any way. I'm obviously not trying to equate them in any way. Dead naming is obviously way more harmful. Like actual dead naming, like when you dead name a trans person, is obviously way more harmful in every single metric than like calling me Pig Puncher. I don't think that anyone hearing me joke about that could possibly in good faith believe that I'm saying or comparing that to dead naming. But regardless, she responds, "Kind of dumb, but whatever, I got bigger problems." Captain Cornflakes responds, "I think it's super offensive. People deal with hardships in regards to their trans identity, and he's making it into a joke." Now, this is a good argument. This is a valid argument, and if this was where the argument ended, I wouldn't have looked any more into it. I've just been like, political affiliation of the person we're responding to is? No idea. Could be a Wokescold, could be a right-winger. Someone just sent me the video, and I looked at that title, and I was like, let's fucking do it. Alright, we're gonna turn it up to 1.5 speed. It's gonna be nice and fast. It's gonna be like debating Sonic. And, let's do it. Let's go.
I hate RedTube. That's not an exaggeration, and that's not hyperbole. The content that is
Even if PewDiePie was like a breadtuber with his 1 million subscribers, like let's imagine a universe where that was the case, I don't think that even with PewDiePie's reach, by the end of my lifetime, America would be a non-capitalist country. I don't think it's that possible. What we can do is spread class consciousness and educate people. We can do our part and use our platform to educate as many people as possible and help them change their mind. That's the most that we can really do. I mean, I can influence you guys, I can tell you vote.
I encourage all of you to vote blue no matter who. I don't want to hear any shit, even if it's fucking Biden that ends up being the Democratic nominee. Vote for Biden, because Biden is closer to our fucking end goal than Trump is, okay? And I will beat the fuck out of you if I find out you didn't vote.
Woo!
because I'm sitting in the tree going, a chimpanzee can't talk, so they just go, you understand that? See, I'm normal. You're not normal.
You serious?
Eat the poo-poo of our children!
This individual is fascinating. They were once a subscriber to me, and it turns out that they turned on me and said about things that do not represent me as a individual that believes in certain ideological concepts. This opportunist thinks that I completely support the USSR and the Warsaw Pact, which is completely false. When you look at my videos, you can see that there's a denouncement of what you call Stalinism. In fact, I use the term Stalinist whenever I feel like it. The other straw man in this thread is that your view of anarchism, in terms of how I see it, is completely wrong. I do not think that people should really be suppressed for their opinions unless it threatens society. If an anarchist threatens society, then they should be punished. The same goes for everyone else. However, I think people should at least have some free press and free speech to express their ideas. And I do not think anarchism should really be put into practice, but certain things that anarchists say can actually be true. For example, the government should not really control everything, and the government should not really be the driving force for how a society should function. The anarchist is also correct in certain ways that totalitarianism dominates our current society. Even so-called liberal societies can have totalitarian aspects to them. The idea that Marxist-Leninist historical organizations and political groups have ruined the image of socialism is a historically delusional narrative. The only reason that the anti-Stalinists has failed to gain any support at all, with the exclusion of Social Democrats, is because they are lazy. They are lazy and have no interest in actually putting anything in practice. They dream, they have fantasies and have more fantasies, but can never really bypass the barriers of theory and imagination. This comment right here is very disrespectful. First thing I have to say is that the bottom portion of that comment is slander. I do not advocate for violence, and I am not a Marxist-Leninist. Plus, I must say that the Jacobins inspire a whole bunch of people, whole bunch of different people, both moderate, radical, and people that are very acceptable by our current society. For example, the founding fathers, many of the founding fathers of America were supportive of the Jacobins and the French Revolution. The same can be said of many other groups. The Jacobins were well known for actually improving society, for destroying old oppressive tyrannical structures, and for replacing them with democracies that can actually represent the population, democracies that can represent the masses. What this guy is saying is that this kid mean. He is mean. I don't like him. It's not a good comment. It's a waste of my time, but I do it because I want to show you these individuals I'm criticizing, because they are counterproductive to any pluralistic movement. We need a movement that can actually change how society functions, one in which the human condition can be improved. It is people like this that prevent such things from happening.